All right, so we're going to continue looking at parallel lines. So we're at section 4.3. After we do parallel, we're going to look at perpendicular. Two lines to be parallel, what has to happen? Same slope. They never cross, but they have to have different y-intercepts. Okay, same slope, different y-intercepts. What if they had same slope, same intercept?
They're not. They're not parallel.
How come they'd be the same line? Same slope, same intercept, same line. That's not parallel. You already have this.
Yeah, you guys wrote this down yesterday.
Oh, okay.
Vertical lines, that was a special case.
We got to this part yesterday, we just didn't get to the next part.
All right, so how do you find an equation that's parallel to a line that they give you and a point that they give you? Okay. What's the name of the equation?
We're giving you the slope and we're giving you a set of points.
What's the name of the equation we used yesterday? When you have a slope and a point, what Mr. Roy just said. Yep. Point, slope. We're giving you a point, we're giving you a slope. Okay. So just a reminder, you should have that. If not, you can write it down in the box.
Write it in, guys, in that box on the right-hand side of the page. And again, these steps that we do for talking about parallel and the steps we do for perpendicular are going to be very, very similar to what we did yesterday. All right? I mean, for parallel, it's almost identical. Right? For perpendicular, it's going to be a little bit different. Not much, though.
So the key you want to keep in mind, parallel, think same. Parallel, same slope.
And guys, how do we know? I mean, we know slope, it's m, right? What's also the other little hint that tells us what the slope is? What's it going to have attached to it?
X.
Yeah, good, Josiah. Always going to have the x attached. All right, so the number with x, we're talking about parallel, has to be the same. All right?
Okay, so let's go through the parts just like we did yesterday. Y. What happens with y in that formula? Y just stays the same. So we don't have anything we have to put for that. It just stays the same. Let's see, so we have y. What comes after the y?
Minus.
The minus?
Minus, and guys, just like yesterday, we don't have to explain that or anything. It's just minus. And like I said, some of you guys worked with me this morning. When we're setting these up, you can go right down, y, minus. Just keep going right down the list.
What's the next thing after the minus? The y1. Do we have to plug anything in for that?
Yes.
Yes. We have a coordinate, and it's the second number in the coordinate. So we got to remember which one is which. The second number in the coordinate is the y1.
Remember, the minus is just going to go in between those two lines you have the right on. The minus will go just in between those two things. There's no explanation for the minus. It's just part of the formula.
Okay, how about, Connor, what comes after the y1 in the formula? Before that? Something between the y1 and the x.
Look in the box, Connor. The box. What comes after the y1?
Equals. There's nothing we write for that. So in between those two lines in your notes, just put equals.
There's no explanation, it's just part of the formula.
And question, are you going to tell me the next one? Someone was going to. Oh, yeah. Go ahead, what's the next one? Yep, what's m?
Slope.
Slope. Do I have to fill anything in for that?
Yeah, the slope they give you.
Yeah.
And guys, again, yesterday we kind of gave you like a description. We said, give the equation of a line that passes through the 2 points and has a slope of 3. Today, we're going to give you the equation. We'll give you the 2 points in parentheses, then we might say y equals 3x plus 2. You have to know that the number attached to x is a slope, and when you set up your new equation, when you put it in point slope form, you know your slope has to be 3, or whatever number is attached to x, because we want the slope to be exactly the same. So it's a little bit different than what we did yesterday, but
Why do
same idea.
we want the slope exactly the same? What kind of line are we finding?
Repeat the question.
Perpendicular, parallel, yeah.
Parallel. We're finding a line that's parallel to a line. So why do we want the slope to be the
So
same?
that they're mirror images.
Not quite.
We want to make sure what doesn't happen with
They don't
those two lines.
intersect.
Right. So when we have a line like this one, if I want to find a line that's parallel to that one, well, there's the slope of that line. The line that's parallel to that has to have exactly the same slope. If it wasn't the same, they would cross, right? Even if it was just a little bit off, say it was like that, well, they're going to cross. They have to be exactly the same steepness. That's why this says, somewhere, same slope. So for parallel lines, same slope. Next thing, we have our parenthesis. This is part of the formula. What's the next thing after the parenthesis? Yep.
X.
X. Do we plug anything in for X?
Yeah.
No.
Oh wait, no.
For the X or the X1? We got to be careful.
X1.
Yeah, for X1 we plug something in. X
This stays the same.
stays the same.
This stays as X.
What's the next thing in the formula after the X? X
Minus.
minus. Just part of the formula. Just write it down. Now we're at the point that Paige said there's something else we have to plug in for. Xander, what's the last thing I have to plug in for? X1. And we get that from the first number in our coordinate.
Then obviously finish it off. Mr. Hager has up there. Finish it off with close it with the parenthesis. Guys, like the one we did one yesterday where we gave you like the graph, and we gave you two sets of coordinates, and you had to find the slope. We're not gonna do anything like that today. We're gonna give you the actual. But remember yesterday we told you on the other ones we told you what the slope was. Today we're gonna give you the equation of the line. You have to be able to identify where the slope is, so you know how to set it up in your equation.
Can we practice that really quick? Because I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, we're gonna do it.
Like we gave you, we'll give you the equation. Y equals negative 2x plus 5. Now we talked about last academic week. In that problem, someone tell me raising their hand. Someone identify the slope for me.
2. Oh, negative
Negative
2.
2. That would be my slope. So when I set up my equation, what number am I going to use for slope? If it's asking for a line that's parallel, what should the slope be?
Negative 2.
Exactly. We want the slope to be exactly the same. So when we set it up, we want to make sure that what we're going to plug in for m is negative 2. All right? So you have to know that like Mr. Hager said, you have to know that parallel slope is the same. But yesterday we said we gave you the slope with a slope that is 2. Today we're going to give you the equation. You have to be able to identify it. And it's always the ones we give you are always going to be in slope intercept. We're not going to make you rearrange it. Okay?
Yeah, that's not bad.
All right, so key thing when we look at this problem, it says write an equation of a line. So what I'm looking for a final answer is something like this. Y equals, and we'll have to fill in what goes in the box. It says passes through the point 5, negative 4, and is parallel. Okay, later we're going to look at perpendicular. This one says parallel. So let's start with our formula.
I got it.
When we use point slope, what are the how many things do we have to fill in for?
2.
No, more than 2.
3.
3.
I
Y1, M, X1. Let's identify those 3 things from the information up above. What is Y1? Let's just label it. Y1 is negative 4, I agree. Let's keep going. M. Out of the things I have left, which one is M? Savannah? Yep. So there's your M. And keep going. What's the x1? 5. Okay. So now, because it's parallel, we're going to use exactly the same slope. Because if we use the same slope, it should come out parallel. So M is 2. What is y1?
4, -1.
Negative 4.
So,
And x1? 5. Okay, we saw this in the warm-up. Minus a minus turns into a positive. What do we do with the 2?
we
Distribute it to the x and the 5.
Yep. And can you tell me, go ahead, what happens when we distribute the 2 to the x and the 5?
You get 2x minus 10.
Minus 10. Last step, and then I'm going to be able to write my answer in that box. Minus 4. So I get y equals 2x. What's negative 10 minus 4? Savannah? Negative 14.
Yes, I got it right.
Perfect. Okay, I'm going to show you guys something real quick. What I'm going to do is, I'm going to graph both of those lines, and when I graph them, should they cross?
No.
No. Let's start with 2x plus 3. Okay? Savannah, question?
Last time we played.
Remember I handled that, right? So, there's our first line. Okay. Y equals 2x plus 3. Let me graph our second line. Y equals 2x minus 14. Okay. What I'm going to do is zoom out a little bit because it's going to go off the screen if I don't. So let's go like this. There's our first one. Now here's the second one.
Where's the second?
It's coming.
I thought it was all.
Do those lines look parallel?
You look narrow.
Yes.
Yeah.
Look positive.
So you're not going to have to graph it on a calculator to double check, but I'm just showing you by checking our answer. They are parallel. They don't cross. Okay. So questions? Any questions on how we did that? Okay. When we get to perpendicular, the only thing that's going to be different is that number that I just circled. You have to do something to it first. And we practiced it in the warm-up. Opposite, reciprocal.
That's how you show it.
You got to do something to the slope. You can't use the same slope for perpendicular. Same slope is parallel. Okay, so let's try this one. Okay, we'll do this one together, and then we'll give you guys a minute to try that one on your own, and then we'll finish with perpendicular.
Mr. Levy. Mr. So like that, it's like, you don't have to do anything to it at first, you just bring it down.
Yep, let's
And then,
label what's what.
I want to do fraction.
All right. Somebody raise your hand if you can tell me what x1 is. Yep, Gemini? It's negative 4. How about y1? 2. Now, what's the slope? And this one is a parallel problem. So do we have to do anything to the slope?
No, you don't.
No. Parallel, we keep the slope exactly the same as the line we're trying to be parallel to. Same slope. So what's my slope, X?
1/4.
What's my slope?
I got it, 1/4.
1/4. Okay, can somebody give me the whole equation? The whole thing. Joe?
Y minus 2 equals 1/4 times x minus -4.
So x minus -4, what I'm going to do right at this step is I'm just going to make it plus. Okay. Fred, why did I make that a plus? Why did I do it, Will? Why is that a plus?
Because it's in the parentheses.
Alright.
No, not because it's in
I'm
parentheses.
thinking of those
Can I help
straight
out?
lines that
Absolute
you go down.
value
And Joseph,
ones?
So, yeah, go ahead.
I said, can I help?
Hey, we had two negatives.
Yes.
Okay, minus a minus becomes a plus. Next step. It's not going to be too bad, even though it's a fraction, because of the number we have to do it with. Yes? Distribute. Okay, 1/4 times x gives me 1/4 x. Now, what's 1/4 times 4? It's just 1. So even though we had a fraction, it's not that bad because of the numbers you multiplied. Savannah, what's my last step?
You have to get y by itself, so you add 2 to this side.
Add 2. Where am I going to put the plus 2 on the other side?
With the 1.
Under the 1.
They're not the same values.
Don't put it with the x because you can't combine an x with a number. Okay?
You combine like terms.
Combine like terms. So what are we left with? Final answer.
Y equals 1/4
Okay.
x plus 3.
Plus 3.
Plus 3.
I
Oh.
said 1.
Yeah, that's what I meant for my answer.
Okay, this one, I'm not going to graph on the calculator, but if you did, with the lines cross.
No.
No. Will, what did I just ask?
You asked,
You're not listening because that's why you don't know. Okay, I said would the lines cross, and the answer was no.
no bueno.
Same slope.
Well, if you took problem line, they probably could.
Yeah, I'm too short for now.
All right, so you guys take
Easy.
2 minutes on your own and find the equation that's parallel to 2x minus 5, and I want it to go through the point 1, 3. So parallel to this, but it has to go through that.
Okay, now
Okay.
It's
It's exactly the same thing.
What we did the other time by ourselves.
Coordinate equation.
What?
Coordinate equation. Same thing.
No, I was doing
I
this
know
fine.
this, I know.
All I know is a real savage. Underneath the shirt.
So this one, somebody first tell me, Gemini, do you want to tell me the formula we'll use?
Right, so y minus y1 equals m parentheses x minus x1 parentheses.
I agree 100%. Very good. Do you want to tell me anything else?
What do you mean, like?
Well, did we give you any more information?
Okay, so you put y minus 3
Yep.
equals 2 parentheses x minus 1.
Do I have anybody out there? Are you telling me what to do next, or you disagree?
Yeah. No, that's right.
Do I have anybody out there that disagrees?
Am I wrong?
Anybody out there? Why did, so M, right, we put M as 2, right? Somebody remind me, what does M stand for again, Mallory? Slope. Thank you for all the Mallories out there, it's a very popular name. So, 2, right? Why did Gemini put a slope of 2? It didn't say in the problem, it didn't give you the slope.
Can I just do the
Then
thing?
why do we put 2 as a slope?
Because a slope is always what's attached to x.
Okay, so that's fine, so, but it
Why is
doesn't,
it the same?
The attitude.
Why do we keep it the same?
why do we keep it as the same number? What did it tell us in the description? Gemini?
It's parallel.
Again, it asks for parallel. Now guys, at the end of the lesson today, we're gonna blend everything together. We're gonna do one where we say we're gonna give you the slope. We'll do one where it's parallel. You might do a couple where it's perpendicular. So you have to make sure you read what the description says. In this case, Gemini is correct. It asks for a parallel. All right. Now, Josiah, what do you want to do next?
So now I'm gonna distribute.
Okay, distribute means what operation?
Multiply.
Multiply. Okay. What do you get when you distribute?
2x
Yep.
minus 2.
2x minus 2. What about this stuff over here?
You subtract, well, you
Well,
add the
let's
3.
bring it down first before we do that. All right, now somebody else tell me, I'm at the last step. How about Ginny? What am I going to do now? On that last step, what am I going to do now? Add 3. Very nice. I'll add 3 here. Ginny, where else am I going to add 3? Underneath the negative 2. Ginny, why couldn't I add 3 to the 2x? Why couldn't I add 3 under here? What would this need to have in order to be able to do that? What would the 3 need to have to be able to do that? You have to have an x, right? It doesn't. That's why we're only going to add it to the 3. All right? So when I do that, Ginny, what do I get? So this is going to cancel out, right? I get y equals
2x minus 1.
I like the 1. Which one's bigger? 3 or 2?
2.
What number is bigger? 3 or 2? 3, right? What's the sign of 3?
So plus 1.
Plus 1. And people say, guys, why do we do those basic math things on Mondays? Because we're still, not just Ginny, across the board. That's why we do it every Monday to keep you guys practicing with that stuff. Here you go. So that's your equation. Y equals 2x plus 1. All right. Now, there is a practice D. We're not going to do it.
Can I do it?
All right? We're not going to do it. Let's go. Mr. Hager, do you want to grab...
That makes no sense.
So guys, those notes, you might want to leave them out, because you might need them later in the lesson to do some of the review stuff.
Mr. Roy, you want to pass it? I'll pass it.
If you'd like to, maybe that'd be great.
Wait, there's another lesson?
Guys, you're supposed to do the lesson.
And like I said yesterday, guys, this is going to be, this thing we're going to do right here is going to be the last thing, the last new thing we do for the first half of the year. All right? Now listen, if you're having a hard time with this, it's okay. We're going to revisit it later in the year, like when we start getting ready for the final. This stuff is not on the midterm. Let me say it again. This stuff is not on the midterm. Now, why did we do this? Reason being is, you guys are going to have a whole week of shop before our next academic week, obviously. We didn't want to start reviewing too early, because you guys would have a whole week of shop and you may not remember everything. So Ms. Hager and I figured it would probably be better off to kind of, the 2 days we have next academic week, Monday and Tuesday, kind of do our review then so it's kind of fresh in your mind for Wednesday, as opposed to letting a whole shop week pass until we see it again. Now tomorrow, hopefully, this lesson isn't super long. Hopefully tomorrow, the whole period, first thing we'll do is just check the homework, because there's homework tonight. I think it's like 7 problems. Check the homework. After that, the rest of the period, we'll give you the reference sheet, tell you how the reference sheet works, and you guys are just going to kind of be on mistake, and I'll be walking around. You can ask us questions, but it's going to kind of be like you guys filling out the reference sheet. So tomorrow, the only time that Mr. Hager and I will have to like be in front of the class talking, like doing this kind of stuff, is at the beginning, just explaining the reference sheet. After that, the rest of the period is yours. All right? Mr. Hager and I talked, like, having your headphones in tomorrow, you can do that. All right? If you want to kind of work together tomorrow, you can do that. Here's the thing, though. It all depends on what we can get done now. It all depends on how tomorrow goes. If you guys can't handle working together, having time to work on your own, we'll just stop. All right? So I just want you to keep that in mind for tomorrow. So this is the last new thing we'll do for the first half of the year. Josiah, question?
Never mind.
Never mind? Okay. Joe?
Like this stuff, we actually have like 2 problems at the end for like extra credit.
There probably won't be any. We can't.
Wait.
The reason we can't do extra credit because the exam. Because if you have friends that have like Mrs. G or Mrs. Trundy or anybody like that for Algebra 1A, the midterm exam has to be exactly the same for everyone. So the exam that you take will be exactly the same as the exam that Mr. Bab's kids take. That Algebra 1A it has to be the same. Josiah?
Can I leave like 2 minutes early? I need to change for ROTC.
We'll see what happens. All right. So Will, get us started, my man.
I know.
Alright, first, Mr. Hager. Alright. Hey guys, today we're going to be learning writing equations of perpendicular lines, 4.3, part 2.
Thank you, Will.
Yeah, no problem.
All right. So, guys, we've already talked about parallel. All right. Now we're going to talk about perpendicular. All right. So lines that are. Does anyone know what like a perpendicular line, like perpendicular lines, like what they look like or what happens? Does anybody know?
They cross.
Well,
Don't they cross?
they cross, right? When they cross, right? Where they cross, what is formed? Does anybody know? What kind of an angle?
A right angle.
Right angle, right? Good. So that's it right there. They intersect. When they intersect, they form a right angle. All right. So how are perpendicular lines different from parallel lines? Someone tell me by raising their hand. Mallory?
Parallel lines don't touch a perpendicular.
Exactly. Very good. All right. So we just talked about, guys. You guys told me this. Perpendicular lines intersect to form right angles. Now, remember we talked about what was the special There was only one special relationship for a parallel line about the slope. What was it? Mallory?
It has to be the same.
Yeah, the slope will be the same. Now, for perpendicular, there's going to be two kind of special rules. Remember we talked about parallel, all right? The slopes have to be the same, and also the y-intercept have to be different. We don't worry about the y-intercept thing too much. So does anyone remember now, we'll go back to the warm-up that we did. What was one thing that we asked you to give us? We had like -2 up there, and we had 1/3. What was the first thing we asked you to give us? Say it, Fred. I think you just said it. I thought you did. I thought you heard everything. Gemini? The reciprocal, right? Now, reciprocal, that's like a math term, right? If we were going to translate that into something we can understand, what does that mean, reciprocal? What's happening? Gemini? Yeah, you're just flipping the fraction. Now, what if that slope you're given is a whole number? And it asks for the reciprocal.
Put it over 1.
It's over 1, right? Remember, any whole number, if we have 2, it would be over 1. We're not going to give it to you over 1, you just have to know that it's over 1. Alright, so that's one thing. Is that the first thing on our list?
No.
No. Alright, what was the other thing that we talked about?
Opposite.
The opposite, right? So, if I gave you, Connor, if I gave you 2, right? What's the opposite of 2? -2. If I gave you Paige, -5, and I gave you -1/5. What's not the reciprocal, what's the opposite of -1/5? Not the reciprocal, just the opposite. 1/5, positive, right? Alright? So, 2 things we have to have. They have to be opposite. So if the slope you're given is positive, then for it to be perpendicular, the slope you have to write is going to be negative. If it's negative, your slope for a perpendicular line, that line to be perpendicular, has to be positive. And then, like we talked about, they have to be reciprocals. That means flip the fraction. So that they have those 2 things. It has to be opposite, and it has to be reciprocal. Right? Obviously, just like when we talked about with parallel, the y-intercept has to be different. Same thing here. But we're never going to give you guys ones that have the same y-intercept. We're not going to try to trick you. So we just gave you an example here, guys. And I think you have a little blank for that on your guided notes. So if we had 3/4, the slope of the line that we were given is 3/4. All right. For it to be the line to be perpendicular to that, its slope would have to be negative. Would have to be -4/3. Those are opposite reciprocals, right? Because this one's positive, this one's negative. It's 3/4, and we flip the fraction. So it has to have those two things. So in order for a line to be perpendicular, its slope has to be opposite, reciprocal. 2 things. We talked about parallel, it just had to be the same. Right? You just write the same number. For these 2 things, opposite, reciprocal. Alright, everybody good with this?
Yeah.
Alright? So now, everyone good? We got the chart. All right. Now, on your, you guys should have this on your guided notes, right? Okay, good. So, 2/3, right? Joe, what's the not the reciprocal? What's the opposite of 2/3? Negative 2/3. So we covered that part. Now, I want Noah. I want the opposite reciprocal of 2/3. We have the opposite. Now I just need the reciprocal of it. What are you going to do? Like Gemini told us, to make it a reciprocal, you have to flip it.
No, it's on 3 over negative 3 over 2.
Negative 3 over 2. That's the opposite reciprocal of 2/3. So we're just breaking it down. We're doing the opposite first, then we're doing the opposite reciprocal. That would be the, if that was the slope you were given in a line, your perpendicular line would have to have that slope. All right, negative 3/5. So, Jack, what's the opposite of negative 3/5?
3/5.
3/5. All right. Xander with a Z. What is the opposite reciprocal? So we already have the opposite. Now I'm going to see the reciprocal. 5 over 3. Yep, 5/3. There we go. All right. We'll go down. 2. That's what we talked about. Now, Will, we got a whole number now, right?
Yep.
I want to know. I'm not at the reciprocal part yet. I just want to know the opposite.
The opposite would be negative 2.
Negative 2. Very good. Now, this is where it gets a little bit tricky. All right. I want. Oh, Madison thinks she has it. All right. Madison, what's the opposite reciprocal now?
Negative 1/2.
Negative 1/2. Remember, if it's a whole number, we just put it over 1. All right. We got one more. 0. Sydney? 0. There's no negative 0. Opposite reciprocal? Like 0.
No.
No, Mr. Hager says.
Maybe 1/2.
We want.
Huh?
That doesn't make sense.
Whoa. Undefined.
Oh my god.
Oh.
Now, guys, don't. Again, we just want you guys to know that. I don't think we'll give you one where we're asking for, we give you a slope of 0. In most cases, 99% of the time, we're going to give you either a positive whole number, a negative whole number, a positive fraction, or a negative fraction. All right? I don't think we'll ever give you more. For the notes we're doing now, for the homework we do, we're never going to give you a slope of 0.
What kind of line would that be if the slope was 0? No, slope of 0.
0.
It's a vertical.
I forget how it was.
Yeah, it's horizontal.
Horizontal across, right? Remember, if it's vertical, what if it's vertical?
Yeah.
That's
Undefined, right?
But
Well, you okay? Okay.
So wait, horizontal 0 and then.
This is this is 0. And this would be undefined.
Those are perpendicular. See?
And look at them. All right? Good, so we have that. All right, now, again, these steps are going to seem, if you guys want to kind of abbreviate this stuff, you can, but it's just going to kind of look very similar to what we did before. So, same formula that we used yesterday, same formula we used at the beginning of the lesson today. What's the formula we used to do this? Someone tell me by raising their hand. Joe?
y minus y1 equals m times x minus x.
Yeah. So guys, if you want to write this, you can. You don't have to. Because again, a lot of time, we've already talked about this a bunch. You copied it down in the last set of notes, but again, it's repetitive. It's good to know. All right? So that's what it is. If you don't want to put all, I think you guys know what the slope is now. I think you know y1 and x1 are given points. All right. So, just like we did before, the parts, or how we fill things in, are going to be very, very similar, with a little minor tweak. What's the first? So, in the formula, what's the first thing? Someone tell me raising their hand. What's the first thing, Joe? Y, right? And what do we know about y?
It
Stays as y. All right, so y is going to, if you don't want to write not plugging in anything for this, I think you guys know that, you can just write stays as y. You don't have to write the whole thing out. Again, we already kind of copied these down today. So if you don't want to write that, you don't have to. All right. After the y, Ginny, what comes after the y? No, before that. No, before. In between the y and the y1. Look at the formula. In between the y and the y1. The minus, right? So you put your minus. Now, y1 is next. How do we get y1? Someone tell me raising their hand. How do we get y1?
That's the same.
No, it's not the same. Josiah? Yeah, it's the second number from the coordinates given. If you just want to write, if it makes sense to you, like Josiah said, if you want to put second number, that's fine. If you want to write this out, that's fine too. If you just want to write this, if you just want to write that, it's the same as the stuff we just did, Savannah. I'm sorry, I misinterpreted you. I'm sorry. If you just want to write that, and you know what that is, that's fine. You already copied this stuff down twice. All right. So after we got y1, after y1, Jack, what do we have? The equal sign, right? So this in between the two lines, you're gonna put an equal. After that, Connor, do me a favor, take a look at your formula. What comes after the equal sign?
M.
What's M stand for?
Multiply.
What's M stand for?
Slope.
Slope, right? Okay, John. All right, M stands for slope. Now, this is where it gets tricky, because now it's asking us for a line that's going to be perpendicular. So what are we going to make sure we do, Gemini? And it's perpendicular now. So what are you going to make sure you do? What two things? Savannah?
Well, first, put the same thing you put.
And what else? Opposite.
Oh.
Reciprocal, right? This is the new part. So it's going to be the opposite reciprocal of the number that's attached to the y originally. Just like we did for the parallel ones, we're going to give you an equation of a line, be able to identify the slope. We know that's the number with x. And then when you write out your new, you set it up in point slope, make sure you write the opposite reciprocal of the slope that you're given for your new slope. All right? So that's the only new thing. Everything else is the same. All right? After the M, what do we have? Someone tell me raising their hand. Joe? We start the parenthesis. After that, we have, this way just kind of gave us a sneak peek. We have X. What's X, Sophia?
It stays the same.
Stays as X, right? Doesn't change. So X will just stay as X. After that, in between X and the next thing, what do we have? Sign? Minus sign, right? After that minus sign, what do we have? Jack?
X1.
How do we get X1?
You just write X and put 1 at the bottom.
I know that, but how do we, a number's gonna go there. How do we get that number?
It's the X.
Yes, the X, is that the first one or the second one in the set of parentheses?
First one.
The first one, right? This should be X. Alright, X1, and now, like Jack just told us, that'll be the first number in the coordinate. Alright, if, like I said before, if you just want to write this, whatever makes sense to you, that's fine. And last thing is just, all we want to do is just end the parentheses. Now it says here, solve for y. So we have our point slope form set up. How many steps do we need? How many steps are there to solve for y? Close. There's only 2, right? What's the first thing we have to do? Someone tell me by raising their hand. Mallory?
To get it by itself.
Okay, we want to get it by itself. How do we do that though? We said there's 2 steps. What's the first step? No. Okay. We're going to distribute, right? So we'll multiply. Alright? Then after that, what will we do? It depends. Add or subtract. What, Joe?
The number that's what's y.
Yeah, the number that's on the same side as y. The number that's to the right of y or on the same side of the equal sign as y. Alright? That's where you want to add or subtract depending on what sign is there. We already did these steps. We just want to go over and make sure you guys knew them. Alright? Coolness.
I figured
So now, here we go. Write an equation on a line that passes through -3, 1, perpendicular to the line that we're given. So I'm not gonna, we know this part. We know this part. Alright? Xander with a Z. What's the first thing I'm gonna write? Y. And it's just Y, correct? X. What's the next thing I'm going to write?
Minus.
Minus. Ginny. What's the next thing I'm going to write? Huh? 1. Good. That's my Y1, right? Good. Connor. What's the next thing I'm going to write?
Equals.
Very good. Now this is the tricky one. All right? Mallory. What am I going to write now?
You write 1/2. But 1. Oh, you write 2.
Okay.
It's the opposite.
So 1/2, that is, I agree, that would be the, so if I have 1/2 and I say 2, what is that? To that number. It's the reciprocal. But what do we need? We need the reciprocal and the opposite. So let's go back. So we have 2. What else do I have to put with it? A negative sign, right? -2. The slope we were given, remember we have to know that the number with x is a slope. It asks for 2 things. It asks for it to be opposite. It's a positive number. When I ask for a line that's perpendicular for that slope, it needs to be negative. That's the first piece.
It's only -2.
And then 1/2, the reciprocal of that would be 2/1, which simplifies to 2. Is everybody okay with that? Did we lose anybody there?
No.
Everyone's okay. 'Cause remember, 1/2 would be 2/1. We can write any whole number over 1. We just don't do that. So all we're doing is just flipping it. All right? X minus, what's our x1 going to be in this case? Joe? -3. And like Joe, he already saw it. 2 negatives in a row.
+3.
Plus. Nathan, what do I do now?
You multiply -2.
Alright, so I would do -2 times x. What do I get?
-2x.
And what else am I going to get over here? -2 times what?
-6.
Negative times a positive is a negative. This stuff over here, I'm just going to bring down. Alright? Fred, what's the last thing I need to do? Alright, what letter do you want to get by itself with nothing else around it?
X.
No. Y, right? So now look at it. Here's Y. So what do you want to do? You just told me you want to get Y by itself. +1. What?
6.
-6 plus 1. Very good. That cancels. Bring the Y down. -6 and a +1. Mallory?
-7.
No. So, Savannah?
-5.
-5, right? Matt? If this was, now, Mallory, if this was -1, yes, I'd say -7. Alright? There it is. That's your line that is perpendicular to that line, and we'll go through those 2 points. Mr. Hager's going to show you on the calculator.
That's the original, right?
Boom. So Mr. Hager's he wanted to show you guys if you graphed it on a graphing calculator, that's what it would look like. And there it is. They intersect, and we're good. All right. So again, nothing really. You just have to know. You got to remember, if as for perpendicular, you've got to make sure you know to switch your new slope. Make it opposite, make it reciprocal. Do it again, Ms. Hager.
Yeah, I just had it on screen.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know exactly perpendicular.
Okay. There we go. So guys, that's just a visual of what those lines would look like. All right? Another one. Write an equation line that passes through. All right, so y minus y1 equals mx minus. So, someone tell me by raising their hand, what would the slope be for the line perpendicular to this? Sophia?
3.
Well, before we even do that, in our original equation that we're given, what is the slope? Joe? -3. We know that because it's a number with x, and it's already in slope-intercept form. So, Savannah, what is our slope going to be for a line that's perpendicular?
1/3.
1/3. Very good. And what letter is that going to be substituted for? M. All right. So I think that right there would be the only thing that people would struggle with. So what I want you to do right now in 30 seconds is set up the rest. All right? If you feel comfortable enough to solve it, I know that the fraction might scare some people. If you want to wait till we go over, that's fine. But I want to see people at least go through because you know what the slope is now. Right? I think that probably would have been the hardest part for most people. We know what the slope is now. Go through and set it up. And if you feel comfortable enough, like people already asked, if you want to solve it, you can solve it too.
I already solved it. What are you looking at?
All right, so on the left-hand side of the equal sign. Gemini, tell me what the right.
Alright, so y minus 5.
Fred, are you okay? You sure?
I don't know.
Thank you. So now we already get the 1/3 x on. We already get the 1/3 here. Tell me what the right on the right-hand side.
Parentheses.
Yes.
X plus 3.
Plus. How'd you get plus?
Because we're both negative.
Yeah, he just didn't show that. Because I saw a lot of people make this mistake. Remember, that's why we had to write step by step. Minus, the minus sign is part of the formula. Ladies, hello. The minus sign is part of the formula, and then you had a -3. That -3 doesn't just take the place of this. All right? It's minus -3, and like Xander did, it becomes positive. Madison, what do we do now?
Now you're going to distribute
Okay.
1/3.
So tell me what I'm going to do. 1/3.
1/3 times x.
What do you get?
Is 1/3 x.
Yeah, I agree.
And then 1/3 times 3.
Yeah.
Which is 1.
Yeah.
Plus 1.
I saw some people make that. Remember, if I wanted to do this, it'd be like this. 1/3 times 3 over 1. We can do it two ways. We just multiply right across. 1 times 3 is 3. 3 times 1 is 3. It simplifies to 1. Or we could cross cancel. That goes in once, that goes in once. It's 1 over 1 equals 1. Either way works. All right? Bring everything else down.
Just moving the x out of the denominator.
Oh, sorry, mistake.
Okay.
All right. Jack, what's the last step?
Subtract 5 from
So we already have a -5. Add 5. Where else do I add 5?
add 1.
No, it's mine.
1 plus 5, Jack?
Plus 6.
Positive 6. And there you go. All right? That's it right there. Y equals 1/3 x. Now, tonight,
How did you get the 130 again?
huh?
How'd you get the 130 again?
I went up. It asked for perpendicular, right? The slope we're given was -3. So for a line with a slope to be perpendicular to that, it's going to be opposite. So here it was negative. We're going to make sure our new slope is positive, and it's going to be a reciprocal. The reciprocal of 3, it's 3 over 1. I flip it and make it 1 over 3. Can I answer your question, X?
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I was for Will, but he wasn't listening.
All right. So
Yeah, I was. I wrote it down.
let's go. So guys, tonight homework. I think there's 7 questions. There's 5 on the front side, and there's 2 on the back. Listen, the 2 on the back, all right, the 2 on the back are, again, review for the midterm.